So angels are known as celestial beings, or should I say spiritual beings. And traditionally, they are believed to act as messengers, guides, guardians, or protectors, right? And these guys are also depicted with wings, you know, and halos, right, in most religious or cultural texts, and also artwork and literature, which, if we have time, we'll talk about. But, they have all these different depictions, yeah, and we can't really prove it, but we could, right? It's kind of that kind of thing that we're still trying to, find the pieces and put them together, because they are also said to live in different realms, right? Beyond the physical realms, right? So joining us today is our smart guest, VIX, who's going to demystify these guys, okay, the angels. And she's also going to touch on the goddesses, because when you look at their role, or what these angels are depicted to be, you find that the role of the gods and the goddesses tends to overlap, with their role, at least in my perspective. Okay, that's how I see it when I read different texts, religious texts, whatever, right? So VIX, the new age hipster, is joining us today to help us demystify the angels and goddesses among us. Welcome to Sisterhood Smarts, VIX. How are you?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm good. I'm good. I'm hoping that we can demystify thousands of years of mystery in this call today. Maybe a little bit.
Well, we're doing our best, and guess what? No one has all the answers. If you did, y'all, the world would be looking a little bit different. So don't front, okay? Now, Vix, I think let's start right from the beginning. And, you can feel free to talk about both the angels and the goddesses, because I really believe, and I say believe because I don't know for sure. I really believe that their roles, when you talk about messengers, guides, guardians, everything that is associated with these guys, women, men, angels, we don't know, mix, yeah, kind of overlaps with the goddess, right? So can you just start us from the beginning? Who are these guys? Who are these angels, and who are these goddesses? And what are the options?
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately, no one really knows. This will be a short episode. No one really knows. But I think the general kind of feeling with the angels, the archangels, the gods, the goddesses, the saints, although the saints are a little bit different because a lot of them had a lifetime here on Earth. But for those beings that we call on, whether, we call on the angels, guides, ascended masters, goddesses, whoever we're kind of calling on, like you said, they're essentially these messengers that are divine, but they're like little aspects of the divine, like personalities of God, like these little parts of God. Sometimes, when we want to ask for something, when we need something from Source, God, the divine, your choice, your word of choice, it can be a little bit too much sometimes to just say, well, I'm going to open to divine love and divine guidance, and it can just lead me on my way. But when we can tune into one of these like personalities, one of these beings, we kind of have this really clear connection to the aspects of Source, the aspects that we need, whether it's that we want to invoke and embody those aspects for ourselves. For example, If you're feeling nervous in a situation and you feel like you need some confidence, there are beings that you can call on specifically who would be really good in that situation, rather than just saying, hey, God, give me confidence. You can say, oh, I'm going to call on the energy of Sekhmet, the goddess Sekhmet, or I'm going to call on Archangel Michael to give me the courage that I need in this situation. And then we can kind of visualize that they're there with us, that we are becoming them, that we're a little bit more like them. So ultimately, for me, that's how I like to look at these beings, that they're like facets of the divine light. These little, if you think of the divine light as like a diamond, they're the little facets of the divine that we can kind of hook into and connect with. And it can be so much easier for us on this human plane to say, okay, I'm going to connect with a goddess or an angel who kind of maybe looks like me, who kind of looks like a friend or somebody down the street, who I can kind of, visualize is with me, and have a conversation with them in that way, rather than, the booming voice of God kind of coming down and giving us our next assignment. So that's how I like to kind of define what they are. And of course, everybody's got a different way of seeing these beings. So that's how I like to think of them, as little aspects of source, aspects of the divine.
I like your perspective. And I also like that you mentioned you can also just choose to, see it as the neighbor down the street, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't always have to be this, thing that you cannot relate to in the physical realm. Can you talk a little bit about this? Because I think sometimes people prefer, what is in the book, somebody with wings and all this stuff, and they miss the angels around us, because I personally see the way people show up in the world as angels. It's so clear to see it. When you walk around and you see somebody doing something so beautiful, those are what, that's why I started by saying the qualities of the angels. These qualities, when you know what they are, you see them every day. But people who do these amazing, incredible things don't get the credit because they're not seen as the angels. Talk a little bit about this, because, I think it's important for us to start seeing that, it's not always, it's okay to look up and out, but sometimes just look, at your neighbor, or, your friend or your sibling. Talk about this a little bit.
Yeah. I think we've all got those stories, haven't we, where somebody has appeared in your life at a certain moment and has been like an angel in your life, or like you said, you see somebody who's doing amazing things and doing amazing charity work, or just having a huge impact on the world, and they're just so positive and kind, and it's just like, oh my gosh, they are working with something like some energy that is so much higher than what most of us are able to access, whether they're aware of that or not. And one thing I've seen in my work that's really interesting is the amount of people that come to me for reading. And I do these readings where I kind of look into people's soul aspects, and I look at their life purpose, and I look at, kind of who they are on a higher level. And the amount of times that I'm doing a reading and then I'm suddenly overwhelmed with this feeling that, this person has like angelic energy, and that they're from the angelic realms, and that they're just here on the earth for a little time to experience something or do something specific here, which is, kind of blows me away, like how often I see that with people. But there's another aspect to this, that I think so many people who want to connect to angels, like we have this idea of what it's going to look like or what it's going to feel like, whether that is an idea that we've picked up from, artwork, like all of the beautiful artwork of angels that we have, where they're like these beautiful, angels, and they're all very like, defined muscles and like these perfect bodies and these wings and all of this kind of stuff. Or, you know, even in more modern times too, we see a lot of artwork at the moment where the angels are very light and they've got these big wings and they're like these light beings, and people talk about them. You know, I've heard people tell stories about how an angel came to them when they were, you know, in bed, and they opened their eyes and it was this huge being of light that had come to pass on a message. And I think all of that stuff is great. I think that's amazing, but none of that's ever happened to me. Like I've never had that experience. And I wish that I had. And there was many times where, you know, I was waiting, I was calling on the angels. I'm like, angels, come to me, like, show me your true self. And that's not, I don't know about you. Is that how they come to you? Have you seen them like that?
My thing, Vix, is, you know, when people always say angels and stuff like this, I'm like, they're not always looking like in the artwork.
Yeah.
It depends on your culture, you know.
Yes,
So
yes.
You would, when you see, and I have a wonderful mythology book. It's so big, it's like an encyclopedia, and it has many cultures, like all the cultures, you know, it goes by continent, and with pictures and images, a very old book. And when I look at it, and these are called angels, I'm like, oh my God, I think it's so scary. You know, and so that's when people say that, I'm like, I wonder if I don't want to say the culture because people may take it differently, but I wonder if this particular cultural angel showed up, you would be like smiling. You know, you probably want to be like, shush, leave my route. You know? So that's why I think it's important to talk about this. And I also wonder when I read these things, I was like, hold on a minute. These attributes are attributes that we have. So who are these angels? Is it, you know, that's why I liked your title. You know, you said the angels and the goddesses among us. And I was like, okay, it's probably just, we're probably, you know, looking at the angels who, you know, they are you. They really are you, because, but I think, you know, humanity, I'll just say humanity for lack of better words, because I know people define themselves differently, but humanity has been trained to look outside. It's always someone above. And these are invisible, like, you know, it's a light, it's a this, it's a that. But you know how you say it's sometimes the truth and everything is just right in front of your eyes and you can't see it. And so I really like that you put a pin on this, like the angels and goddesses among us. And I think people should just look it, because that when you are always looking outward, to me, it's kind of like also saying, I don't have to deal with this. I don't have to be the kind one. I'll just call the angel to help that hungry person, but you have a pantry full of food.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. And that's what I always was like, that's why I'm so aware of the angels who I see doing things, just because they know that I can do it. I'm capable, you know, and it could be as simple as buying, a hungry person food, or, I don't know, you have a friend who is in between moving and stuff, and you're like, you have spare rooms. You're the angel, right? You are because the person praying for a room. You got 5 rooms. So this is what I noticed with humanity. It's more like they spend too much time looking outward and to the winged, haloed guys and women and goddesses, but actually they are the epitome. It's you. You know, angels are protectors. You protect your children every day. Women have lifted cars. You know, we've seen women have lifted
amazing.
cars to save their children. They've fought, lions.
Yes.
When I look at all this stuff, I'm like, it's you. And so that's why, we're here to talk about this, because I think it's important sometimes. Yes, it's okay to, because there are more realms than the physical realm. That's unknown. But what about this realm? What about you start seeing yourself as the angel? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and fine. There are people who've seen stuff, angels. I'm like you, VIX, no, but but I have never called them to say, come. I never did that, because I have this book, right? And
Didn't want to see that.
I don't think I don't want you showing up in my space. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I found the angels. Maybe you can talk about this. I find the angels to be a little bit notorious sometimes, because when people talk about the angels, like you said, they said, "Oh my God, the angel just showed up. I almost collapsed." Now, that's an invasion of privacy. I don't think that's respectful. That's how I saw it. Talk about it.
Oh, that's such an interesting, that's such an interesting point. And, I'm someone who I spend a lot of time calling on the angels and trying to get them to show up. Other people were having these experiences and like, oh, this angel just appeared. And I'm like, every night when I go to bed, I'm like, please come, angels, please come and show me how amazing you are, and all of that stuff. But for me, like when the angels started showing up for me, it was less like they appeared in my house as these massive light beings, and it was more that they were coming to me in meditation, and it was definitely only with me asking them to come in. Like I would go into a meditation with an intention that I needed help with something or I needed guidance on something. And then I started to have these experiences. And one of my favorite ones was when I had this experience with Archangel Raphael, and I was in meditation and I just kind of saw, like in my mind's eye, this man just kind of came and like sat down opposite me, and he was just dressed in a t-shirt and jeans, and I was like, who are you? Like who are you? How are you gonna
He didn't have a white robe.
No robe,
This is so good, epic.
I mean, his energy was nice though, like he was, like when you, like the same as when you go out somewhere and someone might come and approach you, and there'll be people that will approach you and you'll be like, I don't feel good about this. And other people will come over and you'll be like, oh, okay, this person's got a good vibe. So he had a nice vibe, and he sat down and, I sort of said like, who are you? And he said, I'm Archangel Raphael. And I was looking at him like, how can you be Archangel Raphael? Like you're just like a young man in jeans and a t-shirt. And he said to me, he's like, the angels don't really have form. We just appear to you in the way that you are best going to be able to understand us and connect with us.
Ooh.
And I was like, well, of course that totally makes sense. And so he sat with me like in this meditation, and he just kind of like put his hands out and just sent me some healing. And I was like, okay, that was really nice. And it wasn't scary. It wasn't like a massive light being appearing in a moment where you're like, I don't know that I really want to see this. It was just this really beautiful, gentle meditation. And then of course you could ask, well, was that really him? Did he really appear in my meditation, or was that my mind making something up so that I could receive the healing that I needed? We can go into that whole rabbit hole of like, do angels really even exist, or do we just kind of create them with our own energy because we need something? So yeah, but I love what you said. Like one of the things that I did at the beginning of my journey as well, and I see so many people do this, is like asking the angels for something, but not doing anything yourself. Like that's such a common thing. And I've done that in the past too, where I've just been like, oh, help me with this thing. Like, can you fix this situation for me? You know, can you like fix my whole life? Thanks. And you know, I found out pretty quickly that it doesn't work like that. Like the angels will help you, but they're not here to like do our bidding and to be, you know, our servants or our, you know, they're not here to be our staff. Like they're here to support us and help us. Like they're our guides, you know, they're like our mentors. We can sit down with them and say, what's my next step? What do I need to focus on? Give me the strength to do the things that I need to do in this life, rather than, you know, like you said, giving your power away to something outside of you and saying, fix this situation for me, rather than give me what I need so that I can do that in this life.
Yeah. No, I think, you know, also one thing that I find so fascinating is how you just shared your experience, and someone may think like all the things you said that you can go down the rabbit hole you really experienced, and you know, all this stuff. I think also sometimes because of the education of the culture, you know, you're born in a family, you become a Muslim, a Christian, a Buddhist. That's who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You're born in a certain culture, tradition, that's what you know. But what I find interesting is people are not consciously aware that there are other cultures out there and other traditions out there and other things out there. So when she's sharing her story, just because you haven't experienced it, you haven't been taught about it, all these things does not mean it's not valid, it's not real, it's not happening, because you know, all this stuff, you know, and I see it all the time, like, oh, I don't believe in that. Why don't you believe in that? You know, maybe it's okay to say it's beyond my comprehension. Say I don't know enough about it. It's okay to say it's not my culture. I haven't been exposed to it. It's okay to say all these things, but I find it's not okay to knock it off because it's not part of your culture, your upbringing, your education. You know what I mean? I find that too limiting. You know, when I hear this story, I know, you know, it's valid. There are other cultures out there, you know, and you talk about the goddess. We'll talk about her now a little bit. Because they have an overlap. You know what I mean?
Yes.
My mythology book talks about gods.
I love the sound of this book. What's the book called?
I'll show it to you. I'll find it. Actually, it's called the Encyclopedia of Myths and Symbols. Yes, it's an encyclopedia.
It sounds good.
And I'll email you the book, if the cover and everything. Great. Yeah. And in this book, you know, it depicts all kinds of things. And so when I look at it, I'm just like, okay, these are other cultures, you know, and also it also shows you the things that now you go, when people worshiping certain things, you're like, the offerings were, the Aztecs and the Mayans, they were not doing cool stuff. Yeah. So I'd like us to talk a little bit now about the goddesses. And I know that it's 2024 and people still think this is an interesting, strange topic because everything has been about the God, right?
Yes.
And I find this to be fascinating because we're all made in the image and likeness of God, right? So surely the woman should have something out there that's made in her image and likeness, right? Walk us through this, the goddesses among us, and how can someone recognize if they're a goddess or an angel as well? I know I'm going back to that, but maybe you can combine them too, you know.
Yeah. The goddess is such a, I mean, how much time do you much time do we have to talk about the goddess? Because there's so, we could go so far with that. But like I sort of talked about at the beginning about how, angels are like this aspect of the divine. The goddesses are really like aspects of the divine feminine, like the feminine aspect of God, of source, of the divine. And there's so much, like, people are talking so much about this at the moment, which is fantastic because we should all be talking about it. But I find it really interesting how some people are kind of like going so far down the goddess path that now some of us are kind of disowning the masculine energies that we have within us. And so everybody has like a masculine and feminine energy within them, no matter of your gender. We all have these two opposing forces, like the masculine, the feminine, the positive, the negative. I like to kind of talk about it as like a push and a pull. And there's times in your life where you really need to push for something, you need to hustle, you need to make something happen. And then there's times where you need to pull and let things come to you and just like relax and let the things come. Because if we're always in the push, like the masculine push of like, gotta make things happen, gotta do things, we end up in like a society like what we have now, where everyone's lost their intuition, nobody's taking breaks off social media, everybody's just like constantly doing something, constantly, we can't just sit and rest for 5 minutes, and that's why we really need this divine feminine energy to give us this balance of like, okay, well, sometimes we just need to pause, sometimes we just need to let things come and to not always be in that like pushing, hustling, making things happen energy. Like we need to let the thing come to us. We do the work and then we let the thing come. Anyway, I could talk about that all day, but basically, we're always kind of, I think again, like you said, we've really looked outside of ourselves for the gods and the goddesses, but now I think we're coming into this place where we're realizing that we need to kind of bring this harmony into ourselves and into our own lives, where we have a deeper respect for the feminine energy, whether you're male or female or however you identify, to respect that, we all have this emotional like need to nurture ourselves, to nurture others. And of course we could go down the rabbit hole too of like what even are the traits of the masculine and feminine, because how many of those have just been kind of written down and given to us and said, oh, well, women are soft and men are strong, like we could unpack all of that and be like, well, where does that even come from? But ultimately, whatever that means for you, like and you can look at it as like the right side of the brain or the left side of the brain. We could kind of look at it as that, like the creative and the logical. We could break it down into so many different ways. In the yogic traditions, they talk about like the sun energy and the moon energy. So working with the goddesses is so needed at the moment because so many of us are so disconnected from that divine feminine. Like we're so disconnected from rest. I keep saying rest, and that's not to say the divine feminine is about sitting around doing nothing, but it's that rest
is so important.
It is.
Please, yeah, it's so important, and people need to really recognize. And people, you're right. People throw shade on rest. And people cannot rest. Have you ever observed someone rest and they're like, okay, this is too much. I need to do something.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is interesting to me as well. I'm like, okay, now this is enough. I need to. But then actually a wise lady told me, resting is just as good as anything. And you need, resting is not just about resting. It's doing something to your body and your organs. Everybody's resting. Your organs are resting, your glands are, everything is resting and regenerating. So I love that you said rest. Please go deeper into that.
Go down the resting,
Yes,
go down the resting path.
but you were talking about balancing, and you were talking about something so important, Vix, the brain. You know, you talked about the left and the right hemisphere, and I think what I took from there is we need to have a balanced brain. You know, so I think it's so important. We have to merge the two and get a balanced brain. But go further into this. This is really well, maybe it's just faith. But I think it's very, very, very fascinating what you're saying.
Someone needs that message about rest. But yeah, it's interesting too, because you know we're always sort of, we talk about the two sides of the brain, like, oh, well, I'm an intuitive, or I'm a logical person, or I'm a creative, or I'm not creative, or I'm good at numbers, or I'm not good at numbers. And we put ourselves into those boxes and we say, oh, I'm very left hemisphere, I'm very right hemisphere, I'm very this, or I'm very that. And we kind of just do it to ourselves. And we're like, okay, I've done that to myself many times. And of course there's traits that we have that are probably more of one or the other, but that doesn't mean we don't have the capacity to use the other side. Like I used to be somebody who would very much just go with the flow. Like I just went with the flow. I just let things happen. I just, didn't really, like, I had dreams, but I didn't do anything about them. I kind of was in that place where I think a lot of people get to at certain points, where the manifestation was just like, well, I just believe that it will happen one day, and it will, and I'm not doing anything about it, but if it's my destiny, it will happen. And that was an interesting way to be. And I think at that time in my life it probably served me well, and that was probably exactly what I needed. But as I kind of journeyed forward from there, and I was like, actually, I really do want to, live a life where I'm doing the things that I really want to do. I want to make some things happen. I realized that I was going to need to activate a bit more of the masculine, in quotes, energy of like setting some goals and, showing up and actually putting some work in, and, doing all of those, sitting down at the computer and writing the book, like actually doing the thing. And then, I realized that, we need both of these energies to really live the life that we want to live. We can't just sit on the couch and wait for things to happen. Although I know some people can manifest amazingly like that, but I think it's very few people. It's very few people. Most people don't sit on the couch and then get the lottery check for $1 million. I'm not saying it's never happened, but I don't know anyone it's happened to. Most people I know who are like, living their dream life, they're living in this space between, they work hard and they show up, but they also take time off and they rest and they look after their energy, they look after their health, they spend time with people they love. Like they have this balance. And so we're supposed to be talking about the goddess, but I think the goddess is what we need right now to bring us back into balance, rather than, well, it's either the god or the goddess, pick a team. It's like, no, we're all playing on the same team.
Pick a team. I think that is so beautiful. And I love how you have explained this, because I think this is, you've when people think of the word goddess and God, they go into the sky. Sky stuff. And it's the unknown. Let them talk about that goddess stuff. We can't see it, we don't know it. It's stuff. It's just, I think that, the movies also don't help. It's some women dancing around the fire.
Yeah. So
I like how you've explained it. No, it's actually, it's their characteristics, they are, their attributes to this, and it's an energy, it's an action, it's how you show up in different aspects. So it's not just sky stuff, it's physical stuff. And I like that you have reminded people that we're still in the physical realm, right? So we have to do physical stuff and balance this. I think that was so cool when you said that. And when people think of angels and goddesses, they always think of how powerful these beings are, right? Can you talk about their power with your discoveries? And maybe, Raphael shared some secrets with you. Can you talk about you don't have to tell us everything, of course. I'm sure stuff just personally for you, but share some of the, just tell us what these guys. I really wonder what these guys are up to, like, because the pictures are so powerful.
What are they up to?
Yeah, powerful and purposeful, and they fix things, and everyone's calling on them. And then I look at the world, and I'm like, God, are you the ones making a mess? I could be wrong, That's why I have amazing women on this show, the sisterhood, and men as well. But, I have people who do deep dives into these topics, because I'm looking at what people are saying and what the all the stuff. And then I'm looking at the manifestation in the physical realm, and I'm thinking, so who's making a mess?
Who's making a mess? I think we're all making a mess. I think we're all making a mess. And I think so many of us have incarnated here, just going like totally off on like the woo-woo path for a minute. I think so many of us have, it's okay to do that. So many of us we've incarnated here with this intention of like, I'm going to go and help. I think so many people have that feeling, whether they resonate as like a light worker or a healer or someone with a big mission to do something positive for the world. Like I think most people who are probably listening to this have that feeling in some way. I'm here to help. And we come here and we're like, we're going to help, we're going to save the world, we're going to fix the world. And then we get here and we're like, where do we even start? Where do we even start? And then I think we can get so focused on looking at everything that's wrong, and oh, that person's doing this, and that person's making this choice, and that person's could be better, and all the judgment and all of that kind of stuff. And we've all done that. And then I think we realize that actually the biggest impact we can have is when we work on ourselves and we look at the things within ourselves that can be better and can be changed and can be, just how can we be the best person that we can be every day? And when we're in that energy of like, okay, I'm going to be the best person I can be every day, then we go out into the world and we notice, we notice when someone's on the street and they need money, we put money in instead of just walking past, these little things. And I think there's this sort of expectation for light workers and healers and spiritual people that we're somehow going to be like the next Jesus and have the answers for everyone. Like we'll get on social media and tell everyone like, just be good, be better people, and the whole world will change, which is a nice idea. And there's quite a few people on Instagram who are saying they're Jesus, which is really interesting. You can go down that rabbit hole if you're interested.
Well, I hope they're radicals, and I hope they know that Jesus was not cool, right? He was doing a lot of the stuff that was unpopular.
Yes, yeah.
He was a radical. He was not all like love and light.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's what, yeah.
Yeah, he was a lot of things. He was love, but he was many things. Like if you look at Jesus, what we have in the Bible, and if you're Jesus, then we need to be seeing you in television. Like really?
Yeah. Yeah,
like
definitely,
challenging the status
definitely.
quo.
Yeah. Have you seen AI Jesus?
No, I haven't
There's an
seen it.
AI Jesus, and I went down that rabbit hole. um, because I have so many feelings about AI.
Yeah.
But I found this AI Jesus, and it was amazing. Like what people were asking all these questions,
Oh,
and it's like a video of this guy, and he just kind of just keeps bringing everything back to love and being good, and it was amazing. But it's interesting that we've come to talk about Jesus, because I think he is like such a fantastic person to look to, like not to look to the church or to look to the church's teachings or all these things that have kind of come out of that. But if you just go back to looking at who he was as a person, he was love, he was compassionate, he was non-judgmental, he took in everybody, he was so inclusive, but he also didn't let people get away with stuff. Like when he saw something happening in the world that was not right, like he spoke up about that. And I think if we all tried to get into that energy a little bit more, and we were like, yes, it comes from love and compassion, and we're not calling this stuff out because, like cancel culture and someone said something I didn't agree with and all of that kind of stuff, but like genuinely seeing things that are harmful and, creating problems in the world, and talking about that, as well as being love and compassion and all of that. Like, I think, he's such a great figure to kind of look to for how do we get out of this mess? Like, we need more people who are in love and compassion, but also willing to talk about the hard things. And I think so many people, we kind of go one way or the other. We go so far down the love and compassion path. And, he's a great example of someone who's really like blended these two energies, because we can go so far down love and compassion that we just say, well, everything's as it's meant to be and everything's good and everything's fine. Like that's huge in spiritual community, right? Like so many people are like, well, it's just everything happens for a reason. Oh, the war and this and all these terrible things. Or we can go so far down the other path where we just, we lose the compassion, and we get so focused on this is wrong, this is bad, this needs to change, everyone needs to do it my way because I'm right, and that whole thing. And it's like it's hard to find that middle point. But yeah, I think, how do we get out of this mess? I think that, coming back to the angels and the goddesses, when we ask them for help, I think what we're really doing, or at least what I feel like I'm really doing when I ask them for help, I'm kind of calling on them and I'm saying, show me what to do. Like, show me how. And one of my prayers that I say every day is like, please show me how I can be of service to love today. Like, show me how I can do that. And in those moments where I have a choice, a loving choice or not a so loving choice, be with me and help me to make the most loving choice I can. So yeah, for me, the angels are like when the cartoons with the little angel and little devil on your shoulder, and it's like, who are you going to listen to? So when you call on the angels, it's like saying, I'm going to listen to you. I want to listen to you. I want to do the right thing. I want to be the best version of myself I can. I want to help the world in whatever way I can today. Can you help me? Can you be the voice on my shoulder that tells me, VIX, go this way? VIX, here's someone that needs help. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I think that is so, so beautiful how you've put that, because, you've given so many examples that are applicable. It's, I like when someone shares stuff that if you're listening, you can just do it. You don't need to say, oh, I don't have enough money. Oh, my culture doesn't allow it. Or, I have restrictions. I like when people just tell you, this is something open your mouth and you can do it. You can, or whatever culture you're in, everyone has these angels or belief systems. Some don't, some are ancestral. Whatever it is, there's help, right? So you can do it. And I like that you said we go down, either this or that. It's the two extremes. And I think, Vix, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think that has a lot to do with the inability of people to come down and just admit that maybe what I learned was wrong, incorrect, and there's a different way of doing things that will require you to do some unlearning. Also, the ability to say that maybe, what she's doing, could be interesting, and let me look at it. And then you still have the choice to say, it's not my thing. But when you are stuck, you judge things that you know nothing about. You've not done you've not read about it. You don't have the information to be judgmental. And that means, I like to say, cross the street, just cross the street, cross the street. It's not that hard. Just cross the street. Then you can decide, VIX is not my cup of coffee, or the angel part, VIX said, is my cup of coffee, but the goddess part, but then you will have learned something about VIX. So the next time VIX says something, you wouldn't say it's this or that, because something in that is not 100%. And I think not enough people are crossing the street. And so everyone is, this one wants to is building a homeless shelter, and this one is saying they're too lazy, let them get a job. The homeless shelter, which you want to build, is becoming more complicated than it should be. When all you can say is, maybe it's her culture, because in Hindu, they have one of their pilgrimages is a charity. This is part of their religion to do this. I think they have 5 pilgrimages. So if you understood that, you'd be like, it has nothing to do with whether they're lazy or not. They're going to do it. It's part of their religion. It's a requirement, whether I believe in it or not. You know what I mean? And I think, I don't know. I just think that we just need to just chill out a little bit, and admit we all have missing pieces, and VIX has a piece, and VIX's neighbor has a piece, and my neighbor has a piece. You know what I mean?
I love that so much. And I think, my journey has been very much about trying to find all the pieces, going through all these different, when I was a teenager, I was really into Wicca and witchcraft, really full on into that. And then I joined the church and I became a born again Christian for a couple of years. And I thought that was my path. And then I left the church and then I went on to do something else. And I've been looking for the pieces. And I feel like, I got to this point now where I still don't have a lot of pieces. I still don't have all the, definitely don't have, no one's ever going to have all the pieces. But I feel like in looking outside of, what you were, how you were brought up, or just what, what the people around you say, even the people, that you have around you in your life now, looking outside of that and getting curious about, different cultures and different paths can lead you to finding more of those pieces for yourself. And I've always said to anybody who works with me, who takes a workshop or gets a reading with me, I always say, enjoy this, use this, but keep your own intuition activated. And if I say something that you're like, what are you talking about? Angels appearing as, in jeans and a t-shirt, that's just, that's just weird. And I would never want to do that. Then that's totally fine. Then that's not how you're going to connect with them. That was just what worked for me on that special day. That was beautiful for me. Maybe for you, they are appearing at the end of your bed. Maybe they're coming without permission, but that's what you like. Maybe that's, that's how it needs to be. Yeah, maybe that's just I don't know. Maybe you had a soul contract to have that experience. I don't know. And I do think, you know, the further down this path you get, the more you realize that you don't know anything as well, which is really a fun place to get to, you know, where it's like the amount that I know is like, you know, nothing really compared to what's out there. So yeah, but I always say that to people, like, just, you know, listen to these conversations, take something that resonates, leave the rest. If you listen to this and you're like, yeah, VIX wasn't my cup of coffee, then that's okay. Go find your cup of coffee. You know, keep listening. Listen to the next podcast. Maybe that'll be it.
But you know what, VIX? When you are when you get it, like you're saying, we get this knowledge here and that knowledge here, it reaches a point where that you find very few people who are not your cup of coffee, because you know that there is a gem in everything.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I rarely find people who are not my cup of coffee, even though I don't agree with everything. I always find something. I'm like, okay.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes you can talk to somebody, or, you know, listen. Even when you watch a movie, you can watch a whole movie, and then you only 5 minutes of it is you know, like, that line was really something, but the movie was really crappy, you know. So I think well, it's been a while since I said this person is, or this information or whatever is not a cup, you know, whatever. Even an event, there's always something. You know, there's always you know, something you get from it. So I find it fascinating when people say that. Oh, she's not my cup of coffee. I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. There's always something. I don't care. That's my take on that.
I absolutely agree with that. Because I feel the same, you know, like I'm constantly engaging with different teachings and different practices from all sorts of different paths. And it's very rare that I will watch something and say, you know, that was a complete waste of time. There's always something, and you can learn something from everybody, I think. Yeah.
Everybody. Even the children's shows, you know, I learned a lot.
Oh, yes.
It was Avatar with one of my nephews. He put me onto that. He was like, you know, Auntie Faith, come, let me show you some Avatar. It's my favorite. And these guys, these kids, this anime was talking about the power of water and fire. It was fascinating. I was glued to it. Yeah, that was my 7-year-old nephew. So again, I love that. There's always gems in that. One thing I wanted us to touch on before we head out is the representation of angels and goddesses. You touched a little bit on it, but we didn't go deeper into it, because I think it has a huge impact on what people perceive this to be. That's why they judge your Raphael in jeans. Because someone painted this and they don't know somebody's artwork. You see, maybe 50 years from now, VIX, your Raphael will be the new artwork that people will be
doing.
You know,
everyone. Could you imagine this is like the artwork that everybody's, you know, like the pictures of Jesus that you see, that's just like that picture of Jesus that's everywhere, and it's like, oh well, that's definitely what he looked like, and we're like, no, actually he never would have had blue eyes or had pale skin. Like that just that doesn't make any sense. But everyone's just, anyway, that's going back down the Jesus path. It's been really interesting, because we created these decks, the Angels Among Us and the Goddesses Among Us Oracle decks, that I created with Ellie Grant, this amazing artist. And what we did was we dressed all of the angels and the goddesses just in modern day clothing. Mm-hmm. And there was quite a few reasons for that. One of the reasons was because that was how they were appearing to me. So that made sense to be like, hey, this is, you know, how they look to me. It was also because I really wanted people to be able to connect with the energies of the gods, the goddesses, and the angels, and there's ascended masters and other beings in there as well, in a way that wasn't so disconnected, like in a way where you could look at them and say, oh, you know, that looks like the guy down at my gym, or that looks like the woman that makes my coffee, or that looks like my mom. You know, like there's people in there that you will hopefully recognize. And it was difficult with, you know, diversity. We only have 36 cards, but we tried really hard to be like, you know, someone in here will maybe look a little bit like someone that you know. And then the other reason for that was that I wanted people to see themselves in the cards and in the images. So, you know, we wanted that to be a part of the experience, where you might go through the deck and you might say, oh, okay, she looks a little bit like me. Maybe not exactly, but, you know, I can see myself in that image. And if you can see yourself in an image of an angel, you know, like that's a cool thing, right? And it helps you to see that, you know, maybe you're a little bit angelic too, and maybe you have some of those traits, and maybe, you know, the angels aren't just something outside of you. Maybe they are you, like we talked about earlier. So that's kind of where we got to with that. And I find it really interesting. I have definitely had some negative responses to the decks. You know, I've had people message me and say some like Amazon reviews and things from people that have said, you know, that's not what they look like.
Really?
That's not what they look like. And I find that really fascinating, because it's like, well, you know, they don't really look like anything. They're just energy. So, you know, and then people are like, oh, well, where's their robe, and where's the armor, and where's the, you know, all of these things. And it's like, but that imagery that we see, you know, like the you know, like the Raphael and the Michael from, you know, like 500 years ago, like all of that was just created from artists who were making them look like people, modern day people, because that was the modern day then, and sticking wings on their back. So we just did the same thing, but we just updated it. But it's really interesting how, you know, or some people are so stuck in this idea of, well, you know, I've seen this artwork of Archangel Michael from like the 1800s or earlier 1600s, whenever, and so that's what he looks like. But angels have been around since the beginning of time. Like, if angels are just aspects of source, they've been around since the Big Bang. You know, so like, why do they have to look like the artwork from the, you know, the 1500s? Like, it's just one way that we've seen them. And then there's like this whole thing too that I read somewhere around how actually angels are just light beings and they never had wings. But the images, like the artwork, people were seeing these light beings and they thought they were seeing wings because of the glow, like the light around them. So they started painting wings. So there's this whole thing about like, they might not even have wings anyway, you know, like, and then like you said, if you look into the Old Testament, the descriptions of the angels in there are truly terrifying. And I have seen like I've seen some people have done like artwork on, like they've taken the descriptions from the Old Testament and they've done the artwork with like, what was that? One of the angels has like, looks like a wheel with like 82 eyes on it or something. And people have drawn that and it's like, you don't want that showing up at the bottom of your bed. Like, that's really not what you want to see. But, you know, even that, it's just somebody's interpretation of this,
Exactly.
of this energy. So yeah, it's been a really interesting experience to kind of create that and say, hey, why can't angels wear just modern day clothes and be walking around? I think they're walking around all the time. You know, when we and you do hear these stories, you know, oh, someone I broke down at the side of the road and somebody came and they fixed my tire, and then when I turned around, they were gone. You know, like these amazing little stories. And it's like, that was an angel. That was definitely an angel. You know, some bloke in in jeans and a t-shirt, came and fixed your car, and then he just like poof, disappeared.
Yeah. That happens all the time. Or somebody does something so incredibly amazing for you, and when you come back to thank them, this happened to me once. So someone at the airport, she was just amazingly amazing. And I was, I was flying, right? But I was coming back. So when I came back, I brought her a gift to say thank you. And I was told she doesn't work there. They don't know that person. I was like, no way. This person checked me in. They did this, they did that. And they were like, no. And they went above and beyond. It was just so, everything was just so shocking. And I was just like, no. And I said, but I brought, because I thought maybe they were, of course they do protect the employees. You can't just allow, and I said, no, I brought her a thank you gift because she did this. And I said, look at my check-in. All this was done. It was not, it was obvious this was somebody who did something really kind and amazing. And they were like, we don't know. It was just your lucky day. So we don't have this person working here. It was 2 days. I was gone for 2 days, came back, and I went straight to the counter and I asked for her, and I was told, nope, she doesn't work there. And it happened.
Wow.
It does
wow.
happen. Yes, it happens.
That's amazing.
That's why I think, again, like you said, they're the angels, right? I'm like, did she quit? Did she resign? Did she move? They said, no. This person has never worked.
Oh, that's amazing. If I was an angel, I would do stuff like that all day. I'd just be like, need some help? I can help you with this. And then I just disappear.
I think God would end up putting you in a ban because people wouldn't be learning the lesson.
Interfering too much with the mortals.
I'd be like you. Yeah, but and I like that we need to you talk about us looking a little bit, looking at the artwork and the literature with an open mind, and because again, VIX, we keep saying we don't know everything, and this was the artwork of another human being. This was someone's imagination. So the way we stick with it, like it's the law, is so fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And I think, I probably did that too at some point. But yeah, I find it really interesting how, we just pick one thing and it's like, well, that must be what they look like because we're so programmed, I guess. Like that's the imagery that we've seen, like, over and over again. And so we just take that on as being truth. But I think the only way to really understand the angels is to work with them and call them in and to have a relationship with them, like you'd have a relationship with, another person, and spend time with them and see what they have to share with you and see how they can help you. I think that's the best way that you can find out, what they really look like, or what they're going to look like to you and how they're going to help you.
Yeah. And for somebody who's watching this and has their set mind and way of doing things, or is just listening to this information for the first time, because I'm sure there's one person who's listening to this for the first time, at least one person, what would you tell them, or what would you recommend for them as, I don't want to say ritual, because people think these words are all negative. A ritual, you wash your hands every day, brush your teeth, that's a ritual, but what's kind of ritual, for lack of better words, or practices associated with connecting to angels or goddesses? What are some of these things that they can do if they don't know what to do or they're starting off?
Yeah, I think, for me, the first thing that I did when I started to connect with angels was that I just had an intention that I wanted to do it. And I think just kind of expressing that intention in some way and just saying, hey, angels, like I'm curious. I want to connect with you. I want to get to know you. I want to, I want us to connect. Can be a really great place to start. And so can just talking to them. Like that was one of the things that worked so well for me. I think we can get really caught up in, well, you got to light a candle and you've got to say this and you've got to have the right angel-like crystal and all of those things, which can help. If you are somebody that likes doing it in that way, then you can sit down and you can light a candle and say, I'm calling in the angels to come and like work with me, and I invite you into my life and please help me in positive ways, or whatever you'd like to say. But I think for me, when I started working with angels, I was just in a place in my life where I just really needed help. I just needed some guidance, and I just needed, I was at a place where, I was just really feeling like there's got to be more to life than this. And, I was just kind of in a cycle of just, not really going anywhere, not really doing anything, just kind of letting life happen to me, and I just sort of thought, I don't want to live like this. Like, I want to have a more exciting, magical life than this. And so I just started talking to them and asking them for help. And I just said, can you help me? Can you help me? And then, I started to do things like when I was driving to work in the car, I would just kind of, turn off the radio and I'd just have a chat. And people must have thought, like, who's she talking to? Is she on the phone? Is she, like, is she talking to someone in the back seat? But I would just have these conversations, and I would just talk to, myself or the angels, and I'd just say, look, I'm feeling really stuck right now. I could really use some help with this. I really, could you give me some guidance around this? And the first, 100 times I did that, I got nothing. I got nothing. I felt good expressing it and saying it, but I didn't get an angel appeared to me next to me telling me the answer. But then, eventually the answers started to come, and I would find that when I would sit down and say, I really need some guidance. This just happened the other day. I was pulling some cards for myself, and I visualized myself kind of going into a temple, and there was an angel there. And so I started having this conversation with the angel, and I was just saying, this is how I'm feeling. I'm confused about this. And the angel was asking me questions about it and kind of, making me really think about things. And it wasn't like the angel gave me this, here's the answer to everything that's kind of going on for you. But it was this conversation. It was like this really powerful kind of spiritual therapy session where I kind of came out of that meditation and I felt calmer, and I felt like I knew what to do, and I felt like I had my next steps, and that was a really good experience. And so I would just say, talk to them. And if you're worried about people looking at you in the car, talk to them in the shower, talk to them when you got 2 minutes on your own. And this, this goes for angels, goddesses, guides. You can just ask your guides. If you're like, I don't want to work with the angels, I'm not into that, you can just do the same thing and just talk to your guides and just say, I need some help with this, and this. And then, see where it takes you.
Yeah, you work with a lot of different people, and they share their experiences with you. Have you ever had somebody share an experience with you about calling on an angel and the wrong kind shows up, or a more malevolent entity? Because when you said just call on them, I was like, wow, that's so general. Like, shouldn't you want to be right?
I'm glad that you really? And
just like if you just say angels, because a lot of things are called angels. They go by this title. And and also in this book, it's an encyclopedia of myths and something symbols, and it talks about their attributes, but they all fall under these titles of angel, of deity, of this, by different names. So you can call on this one, and it is considered the bringer of death. And death doesn't mean killing. You can kill maybe you want to get rid of a relationship. It will just say, oh, help. Okay, I'm this title, and she's having trouble in her relationship. I will just get rid of it. That's that one's job.
This is a great question. And there's a couple of things that you can do. So generally, if you're calling on angels,
it's a title.
Angels, as far as I'm aware, unless you're calling on like a fallen angel, because fallen angels, and some people call on them for help as well. You know, some people call on Lucifer for
an angel. It falls under angel. They may be innocent. You know what I mean, Vix? It could be an innocent person, and they just say, "I'm calling on an angel." And
I would say, yeah. So I haven't had that experience with angels. Like when I've specifically said angels, I don't feel like I've gotten anything that is not from the light. But I have had experiences where other things have come in, like guides, you know, not guides, but, you know, like beings have come in who haven't felt like they're from the light. But there's a few things you can do. So you can always just ask, be specific when you're asking. Say, angels from the highest realms of love and light, or, you know, from the highest realms of love, light, and truth, or, you know, whatever you want, and make sure that, you know, you're calling on. Yeah, I feel like angels from the light. But the other thing you can do is you can call on archangels, because the archangels are higher than just a general, you know, just general, give me any angel for this. You can call on the archangels. And when you start looking at like the specific archangels, you can find that, you know, and this is part of why it's great to, you know, learn a little bit about some of the archangels, because you'll find the ones that you feel like, that's a yes, I want to work with that energy. I don't want to work with the angel of death right now. You know, that's not what I'm ready for or what I want. But
and
I
death
always
doesn't mean life, death, people. It just means, you know, you don't want something anymore. So, you know, again, that word, it's misused and abused, but it means different things. Just like you said, witchcraft and witch, it's not what it means. Even pagan, all these words, they don't mean what they're said to be. Sorry,
what we think they mean.
I'm not that.
Yeah.
What are they talking about? Just
and so like people still get, you know, I mean, I've been reading the tarot for like 20 years, and even sometimes when I pull the death card, I'm like, oh, you know, like, okay, like I know what it means, but it's still that moment of like, oh no, okay. But I always say to people, like, if you want to start working with angels, one of the best angels to work with is Archangel Michael. So Archangel Michael, like if you look into his lore and you look into his background and you read stories about him, what he's done, the people that have worked with him, I don't know anyone that's had an experience with Archangel Michael that hasn't just felt like very powerful and safe and from the light. That doesn't mean he'll be the right angel for everybody, but he's a fantastic protector. So you can call him in and ask him to protect you. Like that can be one of the first things that you do. You can say, Archangel Michael, can you please protect me so that when I work with angels, I'm always safe? Or, you know, something like that. He was one of the first angels I worked with, and he helped me to really work with my energy protection and to learn how to protect my energy so that, first of all, like the, you know, negative entities or whatever wouldn't be able to come into my space. But if they did, I would be able to, you know, I'd know what they were. Because the more we protect our energy, the more we can discern like what's positive and not positive. So I would say, you know, if you're somebody who's never worked with angels before, but you're a little bit like, who even are they? Like do some research and say, okay, maybe I just want to stick to the archangels. But the archangels are, you know, very specific energies that have been worked with for like thousands of years that we can tap into their energy. If you look at Archangel Michael, he's all about protection and, you know, he'll clear stuff away. He will, you know, and if you feel like you've called something in or you connected with something that isn't from the light, you can just really quickly call on Archangel Michael to remove it and he'll come and get it, take it away.
Yeah.
So yeah, There's a few little tips. I mean, that's something we could talk about all day as well. But that's kind of just to get people started. But also, ultimately, if you feel like you don't want to do it, then listen to that.
Yes, absolutely.
Don't call in. Like you said, different cultures have different beings that they work with. So if you want to call in your ancestors because that feels safe for you, then take everything that we've said about how to connect with them, sit in the car and talk to your ancestors. Do that, or talk to Buddha or Kuan Yin or whoever, whoever kind of feels safe for you. It doesn't have to be the angels. Or no, talk to yourself. Talk to your higher self. Like that's another fantastic way to do it. And who's to say that the angels aren't just versions of our higher self? So do that.
Yeah, I love that. And in some cultures, everyone had a role. There were just those who were supposed to be spiritual, and everyone else did something else. It's okay, people, to just do what feels good, but as long as you're doing something. That's all I say. As long as you're doing something, and you know that you're a powerful being, right? And you have the power to change things. Also, VIX, we hear this a lot. People say, what can I do? You can do so much. Like Vic said, you should just did this thing, and that's the drop in the ocean. And if we're all putting a drop, we make the ocean. So you can do something, right? Yeah. So thank you so much, Vix, for coming today. I absolutely enjoyed this. I think everyone watching will enjoy this as well. And before we head out, I'd just like you to share anything that we might have missed out that you'd like to talk about today. And then tell us where we can reach you and, get your products. I know you've written some books. And tell us all about that. And also talk about anything that, I might have left out or we might have left out.
I can't think of anything that we've left out. I feel like we covered so much in like an hour. It was amazing.
Yeah, thank you. That's
yeah. I feel like we really, we talked about a lot. So people can find me. Oh gosh, I always struggle with this question. So my website is newagehipster.co, and over there you'll find all of my offerings. I do so many different things. So I have a bunch of books that I've written. I have 3 books and I have 3 oracle decks that are out. Actually, sorry, I have 6 books. Three are nonfiction mystical books and 3 are fiction. Young adult fiction, but that's, a conversation for another time. Mystical fiction.
I love it. That's great.
Yeah, it's very witchy and magical. And I also, I do soul readings for people. So I work one-on-one with people where we kind of, they're like a tarot reading or a card reading, but we kind of, the way that I work with people is I look into your energy and I look at your soul and like who you are, not just here now, but who you are on like a higher level. That's, talked about that really briefly at the start. How I have some clients who come and it's like, oh, you're an ascended master or you're an angel, which is fun. But it doesn't matter if you're not, right? Like there's no hierarchy. And so I do those. And I also teach spiritual development and I teach Kundalini yoga as well. So there's a whole bunch of stuff. Like if you head over to my website, you'll find loads of things. And I also have on my website like a blog where I have a whole bunch of tarot spreads and I make magical memes and I do like just a whole bunch of weird and wonderful things over there that you'll find.
It sounds fun, actually.
It is fun. It is fun. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'd like to remind all our listeners that all of Victoria's information will be in the description. So you'll be able to find everything you need there. And of course, links to her social media and her websites and all that good stuff. So remember to take a peek in the description section of this interview, and then see what piques your interest, and then just go for it. Like, Vic, sometimes I find that we can think things to death. Have you ever noticed that? You can think something to death. Like you see something, it resonates, and then you start killing the whole vibe and the idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
You go with your first mind and your intuition, they usually work out the best. So I don't know why we know that. I don't know why we still, sometimes think of that. So see what piques your interest and then just go for it, Okay. So this was today's Smart Sister, Victoria VIX Maxwell. Thank you for coming over, Victoria. We love to
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. This was wonderful. I loved connecting with you and the conversation, and you're amazing. And it was just so nice to be in this space and be invited here. So thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. We absolutely enjoyed you. It was so much fun. And I think there were so many gems, and I don't want to share my gems, what I took, because sometimes I do that. I just need to let people take what they take from it and go with the flow. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for stopping by. As always, we love and appreciate you all. And until next time, goodbye.